The Civil Rights Movement by Julia Hacker. The Civil Rights Movement was a worldwide phenomenon that demanded equal rights for all races, but mostly the African American race. Many people were involved in this movement, but the most predominant were Martin Luther King Jr., Rosa Parks, and Malcolm X. Although African Americans were freed after the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments were passed, they were still harshly discriminated against. Through the years, they fought for their freedom unsuccessfully. The first event to spark the fire of the Civil Rights Movement was Rosa Parks. Rosa Parks was born in Tuskegee, Alabama on February 4, 1913. Since childhood, she had been a witness to segregation. She lived with her mother and grandparents, who were both slaves and believed strongly in equality between all races. She attended many different segregated schools throughout her early life, including a secondary school. When she was 19, she married Raymond Parks, who was an active member in the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. In Montgomery, where Rosa and Raymond resided, the city law was that blacks were to sit in the back as well as leaving out of the back, while whites were to sit in the front. Rosa sat in the first row for colored people after she got off of work. The bus filled up, and the bus driver noticed that a few white passengers were standing, so he moved the sign that separated the white passengers from the black passengers and asked the black passengers to move back further. Some of the colored passengers moved back, but Rosa refused. The bus driver asked Rosa why she would not move, and she said she didn't feel she should have to. The police were called, and Rosa was arrested. She was later released on bail. Martin Luther King Jr. was a very prominent leader in the civil rights movement, as well as being a Baptist minister born on January 15, 1929. King was raised in Georgia by Michael King Sr. and Alberta Williams King. He was a very popular civil rights movement activist years later. On August 28, 1963, he delivered his powerful "I Have a Dream" speech, still talked about today. The speech was about ending racial tension between blacks and whites. At the beginning of the speech, King talks about the freeing of the slaves in 1863 when the Emancipation Proclamation was passed. 100 years later, the Negro still is not free, he says. At the end of his speech, he begins with, "I have a dream," to which he follows up with his desires of equality and freedom among the African American race from a land of cruelty and hatred. The speech ranked to be one of the top speeches of the 20th century. Malcolm X was another great leader in the civil rights movement. He was born in Omaha, Nebraska on May 19, 1925. He was the son of Lois and Earl Little, and his father was a member of the Universal Negro Improvement Association. Malcolm and his family faced problems with the KKK because of his father's support of civil rights activism. His family then moved to Michigan, which made matters worse. Malcolm's father was found dead 2 years later, more than likely killed by a supremacist. Many years later, Malcolm worked with Nation of Islam leader Elijah Muhammad. Malcolm then became a minister in Boston and created the newspaper Muhammad Speaks to help expand and explain the Nation of Islam message. He told many blacks not to stand down to white people and to fight for their freedom, even if it meant having to get violent. These kind of statements won massive amounts of followers for Malcolm. The Nation of Islam gained many new members as well. All of these powerful people and events helped the nation evolve from having racial tension to living in peace and respecting everyone of all races. Without the leaders, this nation would not be how it is today.